fundamentals and say, well, the price should be here, and the real or actual price would be within 5 to 10 cents of that. But we are nowhere near that situation today. Prices are far above anything that would be indicated by the fund.
If you're confused about commodities, perplexed about where prices might be headed, and increasingly concerned about those rumors about potential shortages of certain raw materials, well, you're not alone. At a time when we seem to be surrounded by uncertainty, it's difficult for even the most confident leaders not to second-guess themselves. While many analysts expect to see price increases as part of the fallout from the pandemic, others believe that higher costs are likely to linger, becoming just another part of the new normal. I'm Jane Singer, and thank you for joining me on A Seat at the Table. Each week, I sit down with industry leaders, entrepreneurs, innovators, and authors who share their insights, experience, and outlook for succeeding in business, as well as a vision of the future. When you want insights into the future of cotton prices, the man to talk to is cotton industry consultant Terry Townsend, who has spent over 30 years analyzing the cotton industry. Before establishing Cotton Analytics, Dr. Townsend was executive director of the International Cotton Advisory Committee, otherwise known as ICAC. Prior to that, he worked at USDA analyzing the U.S. cotton industry. Dr. Townsend has a love for commodity issues, especially those related to cotton, and a deep appreciation of the importance of fundamental analysis in understanding structural change in commodity markets. Before we get started, if you're looking to develop knitwear collections that will be a hit in any market, then Spin Expo is the place to go. It's the primary exhibition for yarns and knitwear. The fair is a rich resource featuring well-edited, high-quality collections as well as cutting-edge technical innovation, not to mention outstanding trend information that cannot be found anywhere else. You can learn more at spinexpo.com. That's www.spinexpo.com. There's also a link in the show notes. And check out our website. You can find all of the previous episodes of A Seat at the Table, the show notes, news about upcoming events, and lots of other useful information. You can find it at seat.fm. That's www.seat.fm. FM because it's a podcast. Now, let's get insights into where cotton prices might be heading. I don't want to say we're in unprecedented times because so many aspects of what we're living through is sort of record-breaking. But the situation with commodities right now is certainly hitting new records.
Yeah, the commodity complex certainly is. And now, cotton is not at record prices, but They're certainly well above the long-run average. And it's difficult to understand. I mean, I've been looking at cotton statistics, working with them, trying to understand them since 1983 when I began at U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Wow.
And all this time, we always have been fairly reliably informed by looking at the ratio of ending stocks to use. Now, sometimes there were periods of time when we had to separate out, when the Soviet Union collapsed, we had to separate out stocks in Central Asia because they were being bartered rather than sold. And there was a period of time when we had to separate out stocks in China because they were held, when China first started as state reserve, those stocks were unavailable. So,
right.
But the general principle that you're measuring the quantity of cotton that's available and comparing that to the quantity of cotton that people wanted to use, and that gave you a rough approximation of the average level of either the A index or New York futures. Another thing you could look at that was really quite stable for a long time is the basis. So the basis between the A index and New York futures, or the basis between Australia and New York futures or something. Everybody had basis charts, and you could look at those. There was a seasonal pattern to it. Everything is out of whack now. World ending stocks, they're not record high, but they're almost as high as they were several years ago. I mean, traditionally we thought of 6 months of stocks as average or adequate, if on August 1st at the start of the cotton season. So if world mill use were going to be 25 million tons, you would figure that 12 and a half, 13 million tons would be adequate. Well, here we are with 20 million tons. We have nearly a full year's worth of cotton in storage. And right now, here in September, the Northern Hemisphere harvest has started. I'm in Houston, and we're in South Texas, where the harvest has started. Cotton is moving. Within the next few months, we're going to have another 20 million tons of cotton available, harvested, ginned in warehouses and ready to move. And then the Southern Hemisphere is planting, and by March, April, May of 2022, we'll have more cotton from the Southern Hemisphere. And yet, here we are with an A index in round numbers of $1 a pound, which is just extraordinary.
Wow.
And, so
what do you think is driving that up?
Yeah, well, that's everybody is wondering that. There are some technical issues. For instance, there's a huge supply of cotton. Textile mills use specific qualities that come from specific areas. And those specific qualities can be in short supply. That seems to be a factor, at least in the United States, that's helping to keep or support New York futures. But I think that that's a technical matter that makes for a few cents and maybe more than that. But the long run average for the A index is 72 cents per pound, and here we are at roughly 30 cents above that, which
wow.
is a huge margin in any commodity industry. And in spinning and weaving, where you measure profits in pennies per kilogram, it's significant. So the underlying thing, and this is somewhat reminiscent of 2010, we had the Great Recession of 2008-9, and the entire value chain. Cotton farmers planted less cotton, spinners ordered less cotton, weavers, dyeing and finishing plants, cut and sew, all the way up to retail. Everybody reduced inventory. And then we had the rebound. China had huge stimulus. The United States had huge stimulus. Europe had huge stimulus. All of a sudden, all this pipeline was empty. And so we had a huge run up in cotton prices. Now, at that time, the A index got over $2 a pound. So we're not into that. We're not into that kind of crisis. But something similar seems to be happening with the pandemic and of course, retailers shedding inventory second quarter of 2020 and even a little reluctant into the third quarter of 2020. And so again, that pipeline got empty. And now people have to fill that pipeline again, and it's pushing up demand. Another contributing factor that always adds into the mix now that really is different are the logistics.
Right.
Again, it's fine to say you have 20 million tons of cotton in the world, but you need it right here at your spinning mill. And if you can't get it, then there's a problem. And that seems to be a factor, not only international, but also even domestic movement of products. In the United States, we don't have enough trucks and truck drivers to move cotton around as easily as it might have been done in what you'd consider a normal period. For the cost of moving cotton from producing regions in the middle of Brazil to the port of Santos is about double.
Really?
The cost of moving cotton in India is higher than and on you go. And then you've got the international freight rates, which seems like it can't even be possible. 14 times, the Baltic freight rate, 14 times its normal rate. A little bit technical factors. Primary factor is just the resurgence in consumer demand around the world, and retailers all the way on down to spinners and people in the supply chain trying to scramble to fill that pipeline. And then you've got the logistics that make it difficult to get cotton where you want it, the right kind of cotton where you want it. and we are where we are. Again, for decades, we've been able to look at fundamentals and say, well, the price should be here, and the real or actual price would be within 5 to 10 cents of that. But we are nowhere near that situation today. Prices are far above anything that would be indicated by the fund.
Right. Yeah. It is interesting to see how things have throughout the entire supply chain, how one thing knocks on to the next thing and has caused this incredibly chaotic situation. And yet, we can't deny that at a certain point this pandemic will pass, because historically these things eventually pass. So, assuming that in the relatively near future, consumer demand sort of stabilizes, right? Because people will start to shift some of their spending back to services. How do you think that will impact prices?
Well, the term "a while" is a subjective
Right.
phrase. I don't know how long a while is. Again, the fundamentals, the quantity of cotton we have, the quantity of cotton that's being harvested in the Northern Hemisphere right now, with these high prices. In Australia and Brazil, two of the biggest exporters, are going to be planting in just a few months for harvest in the first half of 2022. There is no threat of shortage of cotton. And you can have problems with specific qualities that, this mill might need, that mill might need. In agriculture, you always say weather. And of course, if we had a hurricane or something that destroyed the whole Texas crop, that would be different. But as of right now, there is no looming shortage of cotton. We have an abundance of cotton in the system. Problem is just getting it distributed to people. Consumer demand in the United States, we got statistics yesterday. Consumer demand is leveling off. So,
right.
Of course, we had a huge decline back in 2020, and then it rebounded in the third, fourth quarters, and here in the first and second quarters, it leveled out. Now, interestingly, the sales of apparel and footwear are still much higher than they were before the pandemic. But that catch up, I think, has happened now, and the retail sales are now, they've recovered and they're level. It certainly would seem that over the next 6 months that retailers will have a chance to catch up on this inventory, this restocking of the inventory, and getting the flow of goods. They're forecasting sales and the flow of goods to meet those sales. And again, from the cotton perspective, there should be no problem. Now, logistics and how many 40-foot boxes there are, and whether another ship gets stuck in the Suez Canal and things like that. But from cotton itself, there's plenty of cotton.
Well, that's good news. I mean, I think certainly there's always a concern about shortages, not just with cotton, but with anything else when you see surging demand. Of course, high prices is one thing, but then not even being able to get it at any price is always a concern. So it's good to hear that we have at least plenty of cotton available to us. Within cotton, and you mentioned different varieties, we've seen a growing demand for organic cotton as brands try to add that sustainability touch point. And certainly there has been a lot less organic cotton available. What's the outlook for that? I mean, do you see that there'll be increasing planting of that, or is that possible? Or what's your take on that sector?
Yeah, well, anything's possible. First of all, just big picture. World cotton production is 25 million metric tons.
Wow.
And organic cotton production, certified organic cotton production, is estimated to be about 225,000 tons. So,
wow.
25 million, 225,000. The organic sector is a very small component.
Right.
Nevertheless, it's bigger than it was 5 years ago. It was only 100,000 tons. So it has doubled in size. The key to whether there will be even more organic cotton is price.
Right.
Organic cotton is inherently labor intensive. So just as a simple example, a farmer can go to a store, a farm and feed store, and buy fertilizer and spread it on their cotton field Or a farmer can spend about 1 year gathering farmyard manure into a big pile, turning that pile with a pitchfork every couple of months for about a year until that manure has become compost and is now safe to handle. And then the farmer has to put that compost into a wagon or a wheelbarrow or something and roll it out and incorporate it into the field. From insect control to planting to harvesting, every step of the production process is more labor intensive with organic than it is with conventional farming. And at the end of the season, most organic farmers still get a lower yield. Now, you can argue, you have different years and different places, and some farmers will get a better yield than others. But if we're looking broadly at the organic industry, it's more work for less yield, and therefore farmers would be happy to grow organic cotton if they get paid for it.
Right.
But price they'll grow it if they get a price premium. In years past, if you asked what's the premium for organic, if you had a particular 2 bales of cotton, one is conventional and the other organic, and they're both of equal quality in the same location, all that, you'd say 10%. Today, those premiums are running around 50% to 100%. And I've heard of some that are even higher than that. And that's a reflection of the specific demand for organic cotton.
Right.
If price premiums stay at that level, sure, we'll get more organic cotton. It'll take several years, but each year farmers will add to the area that they are devoting to organic production, and it will expand. But if price premiums, if the fashion value chain is not going to maintain those price premiums, then no, production will not expand. One other just brief thing I'd make about organic. Farmers are very, very pragmatic people.
Right.
They are technically focused people, what works and what doesn't. And they know that most of the environmental claims about organic cotton, they may be valid, but organic has no beneficial impact compared to conventional cotton if conventional cotton is grown correctly.
Right.
If you mishandle insecticides, or if you over apply or things like that, of course there can be injury or damage in a conventional agricultural system. But most farmers, if you look broadly at 25 million tons of production every year, how much of that comes out of the United States and Brazil and Australia and Greece, how much of that comes out of even India and Pakistan that is well managed, how much that, you'll see that for most farmers, there's really no environmental benefit in terms of soil health or water quality or anything else from organic. And therefore, they will only produce organic if they get a higher price for it. And so price is the key factor. And last, before the other thing I'd say, remember you've got organic here about 225,000 tons. And then you've got the Better Cotton Initiative, you've got Cotton Made in Africa, you've got Cotton Trust Protocol in the United States, and there are a number of other initiatives that all are helping to fill this sustainability space. And those initiatives add up in the neighborhood of 8 to 9 million tons now, or we're getting to where about 1/3 of all the cotton in the world is under some kind of sustainability initiative. So that's where the real growth is going to be.
Right. I think that's interesting. You're right. It comes down to price in many ways. And if organic gets to a certain level, it won't be practical for a lot of brands to be able to use it, even if they want to. I mean, if the premium is that high. We're going to take a quick break now, and then we'll be right back.
We were hiring when we were making 50 to 100K monthly losses.
And why? Welcome to episode 1.
I can't think of a single founder who's been around for a decent amount of time in business who hasn't had their tunnel of year. This was that year. We're going to be okay, yeah, Sheree. Some are going to hear this and think, you TDP. But hear me out. You only have to do the math to understand that very soon we were $500,000 down.
I mean, you go to any cotton industry forum, and everybody is talking about sustainability and traceability and the different technology. How do you define sustainability? What are sustainable practices, and how can those be encouraged? And traceability, how do you define it? Is it only point of origin, or do you need to be able to trace a bale of cotton all the way through the value chain from farmer all the way up to retail, and what technologies are there for that? So everybody associated with cotton and cotton production, cotton marketing, everybody is aware that these are crucial factors, and because consumers are saying they're crucial factors, so that by definition they are. Farmers are happy to grow organic cotton, but in thinking terms, you get less cotton for more work. You've got to be compensated for that. And if premiums remain as high as they are now, we certainly will get more organic cotton in 2022 and more in 2023. But if the premiums, the margin above conventional cotton prices does not remain at this level and falls back toward, say, 10% or 25%, no, it's not going to grow much beyond where it is.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously a farmer needs to be, like you said, compensated enough to be incentivized to grow organic cotton. If we're looking at cotton in terms of price impacts, what should we be watching at this point in time?
In agriculture, you always watch the weather.
Okay.
And still in the hurricane season here in South Texas, and although most of the cotton down in this little part has already been harvested, but you can get most of the United States cotton crop moves in September and October if we get a huge storm or something, and so weather's the first thing you always look at. One thing that individual retailers and brands are concerned about, but the industry as a whole is not affected, are these trade sanctions by the United States against China or cotton from Xinjiang. The world cotton industry is a huge industry, and these sanctions, they can certainly cause headaches for an individual retailer who has purchased a product and it's in a 40-foot container and it arrives at Long Beach and they can't clear the cargo because U.S. Customs and Border Protection has put a withhold and release order.
Right.
So yeah, for that individual who's responsible for those logistics, it's a problem. But for the industry as a whole, it's not an issue. Again, the cotton, we have a surplus of cotton worldwide.
Right.
We are harvesting more cotton right now. We're going to be planting more cotton in the Southern Hemisphere. And with these high prices, farmers are, I should add, not only are cotton prices high, the ratio of cotton to corn or maize, cotton to wheat, cotton to rice, cotton to sugar, cotton to soybeans, all the competing crops, those ratios are also attractive and will encourage cotton planting. And so, while the whole commodity complex has gone up, cotton has gone up and has stayed up more than many of the competing crop prices. And so we're going to get more cotton harvested, more cotton planted, more cotton harvested. There's no global shortage. The other crucial thing with the Delta variant and in the rate of infections in the United States, our rate of infections is nearly as high as it was last December when we had the third peak. That would be the third thing. If we do not get these rate of infections under control, and governments have to reimpose some kind of shutdown, then, or even just a slowdown. Well, if we ever get back into that kind of situation, obviously that would have a huge impact on the cotton market. So far, say retail sales have leveled out. They've recovered and leveled out. They didn't continue to rise, but they leveled out. And if they stay level or approximately level, what you're getting at is price. And again, I've spent 30 years looking at these things. Cotton is overpriced relative to the fundamentals right now of supply and demand. So you've got technicals, you've got logistics and that sort of thing, but overall, we've got plenty of cotton. And so you can always be surprised, but it certainly, I'm highly confident we're not going to get back into the $2 a pound scenario that we had in 2010.
Right.
And I think the weight of probability is that cotton prices are going to start going back. Again, long-term average for the Cotton Look A index is 72 cents a pound. Long-term average for the New York nearby contract is 65 cents a pound. And I think, again, we've got a lot of cotton. We're harvesting a lot of cotton. We're going to be planting more cotton. I believe prices over the next 6 months are going to trend back toward the average. Back how far, how fast, I don't know, but that it certainly would seem that way.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's good news for brands, and it's good news, I suppose, for mills, but it's probably a little bit less not good news for the grower.
Obviously, farmers prefer higher prices, but the retail, there's always got to be a balance, and
yes, yeah.
There's always the phrase, high prices are the best cure for high prices. And that cure will be affecting the market here over the next 6 months and a year.
Right. So assuming that logistics gets under control, we can expect that cotton prices should start to retreat a little bit.
I would think so. And again, you can so we think in terms of probabilities.
Right, yes.
The probabilities are that prices will retreat. Weather and, who knows what can always happen, but that's the more likely scenario is for prices to retreat. It's a matter of getting the right cotton in the right place at the right time, and that can be problematic in this situation, but we've got lots of cotton.
Well, that's really good. And I thank you so much for sharing these insights, Terry. I think that right now people are looking at so many different aspects that are trending in very exceptional directions. Freight, of course, being one of them, but certainly commodity prices, and then, of course, the pandemic, which keeps seemingly coming back every time we think we have it under control. So there's so many different things. People have so many different balls in the air, and I really appreciate your shedding light onto the situation with cotton, because cotton plays such a key role, both in apparel and, of course, in home textiles as well.
Stuff like this cannot go on forever, and if it can't go forever, it won't go forever.
Right.
And so eventually we'll get back to some sense of normalcy.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Terry, if people want to reach out to you, how can they get in touch with you?
My email address is terry@cottonanalytics.com. You've got that. That's the best way. If they want to talk to me, I'd be glad to. But send me an email and tell me, what you want to talk about and when, and then we'll make arrangements.
Okay. Well, I'll put that in the show notes. And I think, you've really provided so many insights. I appreciate it. And now we'll just watch to see what happens. And we've learned to expect the unexpected these days.
Yeah, I mean, who could have forecast that evergreen getting stuck in the Suez Canal? And who can forecast that the major port in China is going to just shut down because of COVID infections and that sort of thing? So, yeah, there are seeming multiplicity of these things going on.
Well, Terry, thank you so much. I really appreciate your taking the time. It's just been great to get your point of view. Well,
okay. Best wishes to you in Hong Kong.
Thank you, Terry. If you enjoyed this episode of A Seat at the Table, join me each week when I sit down with industry leaders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and authors who share their expertise, experience, and insights about succeeding in business and in life. And make sure to visit Spin Expo. From trend information to technical innovation, Spin Expo is the primary exhibition for yarns and knitwear. The fair provides well-edited forums featuring high-quality products that are bursting with creativity. To learn more, go to spinexpo.com. That's www.spinexpo.com. You can also find a link in the show notes for this episode. And don't forget to check out our podcast website, where you can find all of the previous episodes of the Seat at the Table podcast, the show notes, news about our upcoming masterclass series, and lots of other useful information. You can find it at seat.fm. That's www.seat.fm. FM because it's a podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Jane Singer, and I'll see you in the next podcast episode.